Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Valentine Consulting's guest series, where we are so excited to have another guest speaker here today with us. My name is Dr. Daisy Valentine. I'm CEO and president of Valentine Consulting LLC. And we are so excited with this series where we bring so many different people from in the community to come and speak to some of our viewers about some of the amazing things that are going on. My firm is an accounting and finance company. It is a small, non-traditional business that helps small non-traditional businesses. So keep on looking out and getting to know a little bit about us and our guests that we bring on in this guest series. Now today we have Elvis Rivera, and he is one of the top leaders in our community. We are so excited to have you here. Elvis, tell us a little bit about you.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your platform, Daisy. I'm happy to be here. Uh, it's a beautiful day out. I'm looking right out the window outside of here. So this is a good day for this. Again, thank you for welcoming me. So like you said, Elvis Rivera, I first generation immigrant from Guatemala, have lived in Minnesota most of my life since I was 9. My mother, sister, and I came to the state at around that time, and this has been home ever since. Professionally, I work in financial services, and I also own a business that's soon to be opening at the Midtown Global Market. It'll go by the name of
Woo!
Game Time Sports Bar and Arcade. So we're super excited about that. And outside of that, I do a lot of work within the community. I often introduce myself as a person who's corporate by day, community activist by night, and servant leader always, because that's truly one of my passions is to be involved in community and to give back and to help help each other or help the next people that are coming up or anybody who's I feel like we in this world we come in, we go through things, experience things, gain knowledge, gain experience, and I think it's our due diligence and our job to pay it forward to the next people that come after us.
Absolutely, absolutely. You are so lucky that you have a window that you're staring out. I don't have that. I don't have that. I have just walls. Nobody
Yeah,
can see that because we're here with the background. But
right.
I wish I had that. But
Yeah,
I don't have that, which is amazing. But that is so amazing. Like he mentioned, he is one of those top leaders that you see always, always in the community helping out. And by the way, something that you said, I'm really going to start off with this one question, but something that you said that really is going to resonate with a lot of viewers. Okay. A lot of viewers, especially when they're navigating challenges, right? So I'm going to shoot this question to you. As a first generation immigrant or first time business owner, what specific challenges have you faced and how did you seek advice to overcome them?
yeah. I think I've started different businesses before and kind of went through the whole failing forward phase, right? Where you try something, it doesn't work, but instead of giving up, you fall forward and try the next thing and the next thing. I think that's what makes the journey tough at times, but also worthwhile once you actually get to a level that you want to get to. As it relates to the challenges, I think I'm no different than any other first generation immigrant or non-immigrant that maybe is first generation a lot of things, right? I'm not
Mhm.
personally, I'm not just a first generation immigrant. I'm also first generation high school graduate, first generation college student, first generation a lot of different things, right? And I think the theme with that is you don't come with the knowledge. Everything doesn't necessarily come with a manual, right? And so
Mhm.
having to figure out everything from the beginning to the end, and sometimes not understanding how things work, or sometimes even the system not being made to benefit us.
Mhm.
So I would say a lot of my challenges were that, for example, uh, even knowing just like the basic needs of what does it take to open a business, right? What are the permits that you have to pull? Who are the people that you need to talk to, and all the things, access to capital, etc. And so I I what I always went to, and I think I learned this early on. Uh, a lot of people, I've been lucky, I would say, to have came across a lot of amazing people along my path that have given of their time to mentor me along the way. And I've really leaned into that. I've always said that successful people often want to see other people be successful,
Mhm.
especially if they see the enthusiasm and the passion behind whatever it is that you're doing. And so I know that I don't know everything. I know that, as a matter of fact, I don't know much of a lot of things. And so I think into people who have gone through whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve. I guess something that I've done since I was a kid is I identify something that I want to do, and then I try to identify a person who's already doing that.
Mhm.
I observe from afar if I don't have a relationship with them, and if I do have a relationship with them, then I ask, like, hey, how did you get there? And like truly making good on my question by taking on their advice. I feel like I have mentees of my own, and it's such a beautiful thing when you give advice and then you see it come to fruition through their actions. And I think
Mhm.
that's the payback, right? You don't want me personally. I don't want payback in the form of monetary income or anything like that. What makes the mentorship worthwhile is when you see other people take that and run with it and maybe even do it
Mhm.
better than I did. And so I've always leaned into that personally, and I give back in the same way as much as I can.
Which is really nice because that's what leadership is about, right? Leadership is about honing in on who has done it, right?
Right?
It's not about the monetary, it's about how have they done it, and sometimes it's not even monetary. And then your menting, right? Being a mentor as well, seeing those mentees supersede you.
Yeah.
I always say it, if they're not superseding you, you haven't done your job as a leader, right?
That's the goal.
I always say that because I teach outside of my business too, and mentor students too, and when I see them exceed far beyond than what I have, it's like, oh wow, I like that.
Right.
It's when you think that they haven't succeeded, they went lower instead of higher. That's where I'm like, where did I make my mistake, right?
Yeah.
But when they start growing and growing and growing, and then they see what you do too, as you
Yeah.
said, you keep an eye on those individuals that are leaders in the community where you want to build yourself up, and it's exciting, right? It's
Yeah.
amazing. So
Yeah.
that's something that's so awesome, right? So the other thing, the other question that I have for you, and it's kind of really nice that you kind of like went with this type of deal, is, in what ways do cultural values shape your approach to financial planning or impacting the future, of, different mentees that you have, or the selector of different people that you advise?
Oh, I lost you for a little.
Uh-oh. Did we lose you for a second there?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
Uh,
there we go.
cultural perspectives as it relates to was it? That's where I
Oh,
dropped.
okay. It was cultural values that shape your approach to financial planning and mentoring, or the selection of advisors that you would think of, kind of like a cultural perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I always when we talk culture, obviously there's different types of cultures, right? There's uh, professional culture. There's cultures within specific communities. The culture that I mostly identify as my ethnic culture, right? As a Latino, as a first generation immigrant, and I think through life, what shapes my values is my lived experiences, right? I came here, as I mentioned earlier, I landed in Minnesota when I was 9, but the journey from Guatemala started when I was 8, right?
Hmm.
And I remember all the hardship that we went through. We got here, we immigrated illegally, and I'm proud to say it because it's part of my life journey, my life experience, right? And uh, growing up, I come from Guatemala, very poor side of the country. I grew up there from. I was born in '86, and I moved from there in the '90s. And so when we left, we were still going through a 30-year civil war, right? And so I
Oh
think
wow.
what shapes my values is coming from that very humble beginnings and the journey that brought me to America, and along the way, all the people that kind of I came across on, and I was able to see different things from people, right, from the best to the worst, and everything in
Hmm.
between. and what I held on to were the good experiences, right? The people that took the time to assist along the way, but also what I took away was the hardship that people are experiencing, right? And so my values are always rooted in pushing my community forward, pushing the next generation forward. I like to advocate not just for the Latino community, but also those that are underrepresented, under
Mhm.
resourced, right? And so, an emphasis for me is always in community and family. Uh, I always make decisions based on the broader family in mind. Prioritizing shared success and stability.
Mhm.
And I landed in financial services because I feel like there's a big gap in financial literacy, not just within the Latino community, but most BIPOC communities, right?
Just
And
in
so,
general.
right,
Yes, in general. I really agree with that. And it's really good for us to hear that because it's not like you're not being just biased, right? You're not being
right,
biased in just one type of, community or culture or anything when it comes to what you want to do in the community. I say it like this. I advocate for the English language learner.
right,
That's not just the Latino, right? It's
right.
all English language learners
Yeah,
because they are underrepresented. There's many that have been in the same situation as you,
yeah,
coming from a different country, and English is not your first language, right? So I think that is a really good way to give back to the community and to show, like you said, as a first generation immigrant. It's not necessarily being like from Guatemala or Mexico or anything. For
right,
me, I don't know what that is because I was born in the States,
sure,
right? But I do have family that have
right,
been in your shoes.
yeah,
So I understand. Although I didn't go through that like you did, but I still am first generation in my way. First
yeah,
generation in my
absolutely,
family to get a higher education
yeah,
above just a high school diploma, you
hmm,
know? So a lot of different families want to find someone they can trust, they can be around, and like you mentioned, having that financial background to teach, because a lot of people think accounting and finance are the same thing and they're not.
yeah, right.
They're totally different.
To your point, yeah, no, I totally agree with that, and I don't think oftentimes we don't have to come from a same path to
Mhm.
empathize, right?
Mhm.
But what you can do and what shaped, going back to the original question as it relates to business ownership and financial consulting and financial services as a whole, I
Mhm.
think the other piece that outside of values is, well, with values comes alignment. With alignment comes the building blocks that makes us us, and how do we feel seen, heard, and understood, right? Because we all have cultural nuances that shapes the way that we view the world, right? Which
Mhm.
also dives into the psychology around money. I often talk
Mhm.
about that because, you know, from a superficial perspective, when it comes to money, we all look at it differently, right? Some might
Mhm.
look at money as a tool. Some might, depending on their lived experiences, life experiences, they might look at money as something that's grandiose, right? And it's not, but if we do believe that's what it is, it will shape how we move. And so I think we have to truly stay grounded on our values to understand one another and tap into those uh, cultural differences to
Mhm.
understand us further, to understand
Well,
ourselves further, rather.
that's pretty good, and it's gonna take me to my next question because I really
Yeah,
like how you mentioned that it's about talking about the money side, right? And
yeah,
I was just mentioning how it's a difference between accounting and finance, and then so this question is come about where it says, how do we believe, or how do you believe, not we, how do you believe, educating yourself and others about financial planning, has empowered you and for you to help others make better decisions for the future. So this is the one for you and you helping others, right?
sure.
Educating yourself and others in financial planning and empowering them to make the decisions for their future, just like you have, being in the challenges that you had to get to where you're at today.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think at the core of that is my truly deep belief that we're all better when we're all better and we're better together,
Mhm.
right? And so, but in order for us to teach, in order for us to educate, we have to have that desire to lead with that. You know, I mean, there's different ways to cut the cake. I think that's a saying, right? Uh, there's a different ways to do different things, right? But as it relates to financial literacy, financial advice, and financial services, for me, I I truly, truly, truly am very centric on the people that I'm working with, and I focus on meeting them where they're at, and also providing and leading with education, right? And
Mhm.
in order, before I got there, I had to understand it myself, and so I did a lot of the work, right? I got my Series 7, Series 66, and a bunch of different licenses. Read a lot of books because I truly, you know, uh, obviously I'm a fiduciary, and so I'm supposed to do these things.
Mhm.
But also for me, it's even deeper than that. I'm passionate about when I meet with a client or when I meet with a person and truly understanding them where they're at and giving them advice or educating them based on what they truly need help with. Right? You can
Mhm.
uh, align it in different ways, but that's my my approach. There's this saying by one of the local nonprofits in town, and I think it's something along the lines of their slogan is "Where there's education, there's a path forward."
Mhm.
Right, and if my goal is to provide or help people along their financial journey through education, there's always a path forward. So,
Exactly. I agree 100% with you about that. I couldn't educate anyone. I always say it, I used to say this before I had my education and I was a manager at a restaurant or whatever, where
yeah,
I used to be like, if you haven't done it, you can't teach others to do it. Right?
right,
So you have to educate yourself so you can be able to educate others. So we used to say this saying, um, that at first I need to do it before
yeah,
I can tell someone else to do it, right? Because it's really important for me to know what I'm doing. So in my career, it sounds similar to you, where you're focused on educating yourself. And as you're educating yourself, you're learning, you're growing. Then when you meet those individuals where they're at, where their needs are, you know what to help them with, right? You know where to guide them, where they're leaning to. And that's why I tell a lot of my clients that accounting and finance are two separate things. I help with accounting and finance too, to a different level based on their business, based on their accounting. And then, I bring in other experts like yourself to hone in on that financial side, right?
right,
Because that's their niche, that's what they're doing. A lot of people make that mistake, like you mentioned, when they are thinking about money, but it's not just about money, right? It's about other things other than money that create assets and create a return on their investments, which is so interesting. But it's really important to hear and know that you're out there doing this in the community. That it's not just something that you did, that you grew with as first generation, right? Because you saw a lack of it. You also saw it as an opportunity to help your fellow community, right? All
absolutely,
our English language learners. Because I feel like it's, some of those individuals, it's just because it might not just be a language barrier, but just an education barrier,
yeah.
right?
We
So,
all grew up with the same resources, right? And I think,
mhm,
but we all use that resource, which is money, right? It's a tool. I view it as a tool. I didn't always view it that way,
mhm,
but and one of the things that I always say, and it's a saying somebody said it a long time ago, but it really resonates with me. It says financial literacy is not about wealth, but understanding money regardless of the amount. It's about how you treat it and how you maximize opportunities. And
mhm.
so I think that's truly at the core, right? You can have $1 million and not know how to navigate money and lose that $1 million as easy as
It's
somebody
heartbeat.
doesn't have it. Or you can have $30,000, and if you know
Or
exactly how to navigate it, how to manage it, you can make that.
or you can win the lottery. That can happen when somebody wins the lottery. If they
We
don't
see it
have
all the time.
financial literacy,
We see
their
it all the
money's
time.
gone. Yeah,
We see
their
it a
their
lot of
money's
times.
gone in a heartbeat. Yeah.
We see it a lot of
Um,
times. sports. You know,
I
a lot
used
of
to I used to work for Robert Kiyosaki, and this is not a paid advertisement for him, by the way. Just putting that out there. I used to work for Robert Kiyosaki, and that's one of the things that he always told us. If anybody hasn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad, he tells you right there. There's four ways of how people can make money.
yeah,
And two of the top ways is not being a W-2 wage earner. You
yeah,
know, most of us are still W-2 wage earner because we're trying to get out of that rat race. You know what I mean?
yeah.
But by not having that financial literacy, like you mentioned, is where we stay stuck. And a lot of people don't realize is that W-2 wage earners pay more taxes than we do as business owners. You
And that's
know,
not to say that there's anything wrong with W-2 wage
no,
earners.
it's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
Nothing wrong with it at all. Is
right.
that, you know, they don't realize that financial literacy is really important,
Yeah,
you know? And if they don't want to do it, that's fine. But they need to have some kind of education so they can leave a legacy behind, right? So they can leave some kind of, you know, um, what I call it, how do you call it? Like estate or trust,
yeah,
for the ones that are staying behind, right? So they're not
yeah.
impacted. So
Yeah. Go for
I have a couple more questions
it.
I want to throw at you here because
Yeah,
I know we're almost out of time.
yeah,
But this one has to do with community impact.
yeah.
So, in what ways do you think building a network of trustworthy advisors or mentors can benefit not just individuals, but also the broad community of immigrants or new business owners?
I think this ties into the whole mentorship conversation, right?
Hmm.
A trusted advisors are, I mean, anybody who's ever made a considerable amount of money will tell you that trusted advisors, whether that's a lawyer, whether that's a CPA, whether that's a financial consultant, advisor, anybody who's a professional at something that helps you navigate the journey can be a lifesaver. If you don't
Hmm.
understand taxes and you win the lottery, that can be an easy way to lose it all if you don't understand that you have to pay a huge percentage of that, because of what it is, or
Double tax.
right,
Double tax
right,
sometimes.
or you see people that are, get into stocks, and then they hear somewhere that day trading is a great thing, but if they don't take tax into the equation, obviously that eats at the capital gains, right? And so I think having those, not just those mentors, but or maybe even mentors within the trusted advisory, right? I mean, we can
Hmm.
all do it on our own. We can watch YouTube videos and try to figure it out, but that's per my experience hasn't been a winning strategy.
So don't watch the YouTube videos. Contact Elvis.
If you're using it primarily for education, absolutely get your education, but make sure that
Education purposes,
yeah,
yes, education purposes. But don't just try to like do it to use it to think that you're gonna make a difference in the
right.
community. you know. So I got one last question, and this one I think we're gonna end with this. And this is, can you share an experience where proactive financial planning made a significant difference in achieving your personal and business goal?
I think being proactive versus reactive is the name of the game, whether in finances, whether home life, personal life, professional life. I guess that in the interest of time, I'll give you one example, right? So as I mentioned, I'm in the process of launching my own business, which is a sports bar slash arcade hangout spot over at the Midtown Global Market. And this is my first venture of this sort. I've never opened another bar before, but I hope
I'm
to.
excited. I'm
Yeah,
hoping to be there soon.
yeah, I will definitely send out the invitation, and my goal is to open up many more after this, and so you'll continue to get them hopefully. But yeah, so being proactive as it relates to that, right? And I think I'm not going through it right now, so I can speak very vividly to it. I started this idea with a couple of partners late last year, and it was just an idea. Wouldn't it be cool if we had this uh, contribution to Lake Street after what happened in 2020, right?
Hmm.
With the murder of George Floyd, and we built from there, right? And what I did on the back end was seek out people that have done it before, sought out people that could benefit me as advisors. And so prior to launching the business, I created a detailed emphasis on detailed business plan and a financial model that accounted for market downturns and expansion opportunities, right? And so that, fast forward a couple months after, once we're actually in the space and requesting building permits and actually building and buying all the things, that helped us to have that proactive plan ahead of time. Uh, because when we did encounter, speed bumps along the way, we were able to refer back to that and
Hmm.
stay on schedule because we accounted for, hey, what if this goes wrong? Or what if we don't get this in time? Or what if blah, 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 blah. And we encounter a lot of those blah, blah, blahs. I won't bore you with the details, you know,
It's
but
all good.
but being proactive is helped a lot. You know, reactivity has never been something that has provided me much dividends. And that can be said in my journey as a business owner, but also in the market, right? If you're an investor investing for retirement, you want to make sure that you have a financial plan, a retirement
Hmm.
plan, because we all saw what happened in 2020. We all saw what happened in 2008. And if you didn't pay attention, the markets took a big dump on each of those years, right? And those that had a proactive plan, they didn't suffer the consequences to the extent of those that were more reactive, right? Meaning,
Hmm.
when they saw the market dump, they already had a plan for what they would do if that happened.
Hmm.
And those that didn't and just reacted, I mean, just imagine you have $1 million in the bank, from one day to the other, it goes down to 200,000. First instinct is to panic. And what do you do when you panic? Irrational decisions, right? And so proactivity saves you from that. So you kind of save yourself. Your past self saves you from your future self when you proactively plan for whatever it is.
But I think that's really good because not only with starting a new business as an entrepreneur, I think that's really good. Like you're saying, not only is a financial plan important, but also even starting a new business. Like your business is a non-traditional business, right? It's nothing. I've never heard of a bar with arcade altogether. I mean, there's some of these, you know, uh, things out there, but doesn't
Right.
sound like the same out there. But um people need to know that a good business plan helps save them money, and that's where a lot of small non-traditional businesses fail, is because they don't have those proactive plans, right? They don't have a business plan, and within that business plan they don't have that financial plan. So it
Yeah.
really helps them. It doesn't help them not to have it. They need to have it. So we want to stress that you should have those two things, especially if you're trying to open a small non-traditional business or even a small business. You want to be an entrepreneur, you're thinking about it, think about the things that you need in place prior to. And that's where, Valentin Consulting comes in. We do financial analysis with you. We do a financial strategic audit analysis to help individuals, find out how to start up their business and who you need to go to in the community that would advise you and help you in that financial planning. We help you with the business planning, we help you with accounting, we help you with the financial accounting, which is different from what Elvis was talking about by finance. But that's really, really important. Now, Elvis, one last thing. I want you to give everybody one good word or quote that you want people to like remember or hone in on before we leave.
I have it written down right there, so I'm looking this way. I didn't do that for this, but I keep it there because it means it truly picks me up when I'm going through different times in my life. Stress. I believe Steve Jobs. I can't remember who said this, but somebody said this, and they said stress doesn't come from hard work. It primarily comes from not taking action over something that you can have some control over, right? And so the essence of that is channel the energy to get stuff done. And if there's stress, it means that likely you're avoiding doing something, and so try to flip that. If you're stressed, you're not stuck. There's more to be done to get yourself
Hey,
unstressed.
that is amazing. That's an amazing quote. I've never heard that before, but it does sound like something Mel Robbins said. I don't know if you know who what Mel Robbins is,
Mhm.
but Mel Robbins has said that use your time wisely and you will not have as much stress.
Yeah.
So it's like taking increments of time and putting it to something that you need to focus on for that amount of time, whether it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and time yourself doing it. So
Yeah.
that way you can get to the next task and you feel like you
Absolutely.
got something done, right? So I
Yeah.
love that because that right there takes everyone. Think about that, everyone, because stress, if you're stressed, think about what Elvis said. It's not about what you have done, it's what you haven't done that's causing the stress. So, thank you so much, Elvis, for being here. We are so happy. Like and subscribe if you want to hear more guest speakers here on Valentin Consulting. This is our guest series. Season here that we're doing with all these different community partners, all these different individuals, and we are so excited that each and every one of them brings a different perspective, a different thing that would educate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for being here and like and subscribe. Thank you. Have a good night.